Radio.
Well, good day, friends. My name is Ashara Ekundayo. I'm an independent curator and cultural strategist and author of Blatant. Welcome. Blatant is a monthly forum and live zine series that centers the lived experiences and radical imagination of Black women artists and cultural laborers, creating across discipline and geography. Presented in conjunction with the Artists as First Responder platform, I'm honored to wrap our inaugural season today and be in partnership with the Museum of the African Diaspora's robust online public programming season that has been underwritten by Art Bridges. So much gratitude. We always open the Blatant Cipher with a musical or poetic meditation. Today, in celebration of the new moon, we got lifted with some vintage Brooklyn vibes with Sun Moon Child by Amani Azuri and guerrilla video editing by our fam at Exit the Apple, led by my brother Pierre Benu. What's up? How y'all doing?
Good, good.
Are you good? Are you good, good? Are you good, good?
Good, great. Peace.
It's good to see you. We also always acknowledge the land that we are hosting the conversation from. So for me today, I'm at home on the unceded land of the Muwekma, Chichenyo, and Ohlone people on this land that is now called Oakland, California in the United States. I walk upon and create upon this stolen land with humility and in solidarity with First Nations people, all oppressed people who came before now, and with those who are still here. And I also am honoring my African ancestors and giving thanks and gratitude for their guidance and their lessons. And I want to also honor and take a breath and acknowledgement for the many, many souls who have taken flight of their body over these last 11 months, sending them ease on their journey. Yeah. So today I am happy to be joined by two futurists who will share some insight into their art theorizing and making process. My sister comrade, Karen Seneferu, my sister comrade, Lady PheOnix. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Opening thoughts, reflections on the musical meditation on the land or on the new moon, on our breath and the ancestors. Karen, you want to open up with some thoughts?
Well, I'm going to paraphrase a quote I heard from Dana King in the previous artist talk. Can you guys hear me?
Can you speak up a little more?
Sure. I want to paraphrase a quote I heard from Dana King in the previous artist talk I just came from with Leslie Starr. And she said, it's important. We have a right to have our memories presented and enshrined in public.
Ashe. Thank you. Lady PheOnix?
I was really feeling the vibe, the Sun Moon Child vibe, and all that dancing and moving. That's fresh. I want you to send that to me.
I will. It really is like the vintage, for real.
I'd never seen that before. It really gave me some life. I was, I had to shut off my camera because I'm like, I need to jam by myself in the, my little sanctuary. But yeah, I'm super honored to be here, especially under the auspices of the new moon. Also in conversation with both of you as powerhouses and Karen's show, The Black Woman is God. I feel like calling you Karen's not enough. I feel like I need some other, like, what do people really call you? Like they call you the grand something. I feel like there's a greater title that bestows like your fullness. I feel like I should be calling you Miss Karen or something. Like I actually don't think people just calling you Karen.
Rude. My relationship to, how Black people, when they love you, they change your name. Like they don't call you by the name that you're given.
Yeah.
And so my mom had a boyfriend who would call me Carolyn. He knew my name was Karen, but he just decided to give me a new name. Just, I'm gonna call you Carolyn. And then all the nicknames that my father had given me. He had given me one was called Caldonia, and I thought it was connected to a blues song. I later found out it was a name of my great grandmother who didn't have a last name. So yeah, that's really, I feel like you're touching on something ancestral.
Definitely. It's neat that you have a ancestor named Caldonia. My great aunt, my grandmother's sister, is also named Caldonia.
Oh my
God. Yeah, we call her Joni. But I feel like since we're in California, maybe I'll call you the Khalifa.
Oh,
how beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. appreciate
especially under this, you know, the moon, and then we have the, you know, on the 21st, the conjunction of Saturn and is it Jupiter?
It's Jupiter.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big,
On the
big things
solstice. Yeah.
underway. I was chatting with someone in a meeting earlier, and they said, what's your not what's your superpower? What's your super suit or something like that? Basically, what am I dressing up as on the 21st?
Okay.
Because I'll have my powers. And I said, well, I love hoodie and I love hats, so probably I won't dress up in anything other than this, because like the X-Men, you don't always know what their power is. They don't wear it on the outside, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something internal. And so I'd rather keep that superpower for myself and only whip it out when necessary.
right.
I think it's interesting kind of futurist mythology to think that as the planets align and we're ending a certain 400-year cycle, that potentially this is the, you know, the astro alignment of when the person they call Jesus was born or came to earth, or whatever occurrence people want to believe in. It's really neat to think that we as original people have connection to that after so many attempts to disconnect us from mythology, from our power, right? And it's just like, yes, yes for us, okay? Yes for us holding on,
Yes,
being tapped in and claiming that we, our connection as above, so below, claiming that connection and being, and even if it's quote myth or fairy tale, right? There's a certain amount of power in actually using words as architecture to speak something into being.
that's
And
right.
so if our DNA is meant to change and we're meant to power up on the 21st, hoorah, I am here for it. Aho, ashe, I'm
Okay,
with it. Let's get it.
let's get it. Let's
Yeah,
get it. Yes, let's harness that. Harnessing the creative power of yes.
that's right.
I'm gonna read some introductions for you all, short introductions, and we're gonna get into this. Um, okay, Karen Seneferu, mixed media artist who utilizes natural and manufactured materials to boldly examine the ancient and the contemporary, therefore turning modern objects into artifacts. Her Afrofuturistic aesthetic provides a curative intersection between the technological and the spiritual, and her work seeks to enter into and transform the meaning of space. She is also the founder and artistic director of the exhibit, and I would absolutely say the movement, The Black Woman is God, which has changed the artistic and cultural landscape of the California arts sector, the country, and the world. Welcome. Thank you, Queen Karen.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you, Queen Ashara. I appreciate
Yes. Lady PheOnix is a curator of contemporary art and a passionate producer of creative works and events at the intersection of art and technology. She amplifies the work of artists through her virtual galleries at yesuniverse.art and at Universe Contemporary. She is also a leading voice for contemporary digital art and culture, providing an essential platform for the art and the artists of our time. Whew, that's a lot. It's a movement, though. Is there anything either of you would like to add to your introduction?
Just this.
I'd like to say thank you to Laura Green, the co-executor at the AAACC, and who was the curator that was open to me exhibiting there, doing my first solo show, and turning with me when I said no, let's create a space for Black women artists that had inspired me here in the Bay Area. Mm-hmm. So I thank Laura, and I'm so excited too that Maria Jensen is on here, the executive director of Soma Arts, and you know where oftentimes the Black Women's God has lived. So
yes,
yay! And I see you, Ayana. You know,
yeah.
Ayana, Ivory, and Idris Hassan. Yeah, the Black Women's God really wouldn't exist in the way that it has. I mean, these women.
Speak on it. Speak on it. We can get into it.
Yeah, and committed and loyal, and so. You know, please ashe those two sisters, man. They're so powerful. I'm very grateful for them.
Thank you for the roll call. Indeed. You know, when we speak about artwork our mental and physical well-being, the creative economy, policymaking, or the climate crisis, we are simultaneously speaking about racism, anti-Blackness, and white supremacy. And in this day, how COVID-19 and the movement for Black lives run parallel, fueling the blatant truths of beauty and rage. Hence the intersection of these conversations that we've been having over this first season. So my first question to both of you is, what is being reflected in these times? What current manifestations are making their way into your practice? Let's start with you, Lady PheOnix.
You know, wild and radical optimism is making its way into my practice. I feel, do you mean this metaphysically or like tangibly?
Artists, you get to answer any way you want to.
Okay, so I'll answer on both. So metaphysically, I would say wild optimism. I had a pretty brutal 2019, the last probably like 6 months. And it forced upon me being able to see in the dark the way cats would, or a wolf does. And at first I was very resistant to these challenges that my ancestors and life and the universe were bringing me. Actually, elements and entities that were supporting me, but because I was used to, because my eyes were used to being on the sofa instead of being in the field, so to speak, if it hurt me to see, as Neo would say in The Matrix, why do my eyes hurt? And Morpheus said, because you're using them for the first time. And so what I initially experienced in that resistance of like, damn, you know, life really sucks right now, is the pain of seeing. And I had the opportunity to see it and experience it in a different way. And I learned to fold that seeing into my practice, not only as a human, but into my art practice as well, at the level of, okay, well, let's look at what we're being presented as a narrative of truth. Then as an artist, let's look at where I'm empowered to create my own narrative of truth. Put that together in a scope and look in the long view to see what is it that they want to, what stories or narratives or understandings are they at large powers that be trying to bring on board or manifest, and want me to be on board and manifest with them by putting it here for me and putting it on my cell phone screen and putting on my computer screen. And one of those things was, I think a lot of humans don't have confidence in their ability to be here, in their right rather to be here, and their ability to occupy space. I think there's a difference between like taking up space and then claiming the space that is yours. And when I was learning to see in the dark, I understood there was a whole space here that I hadn't claimed because I didn't believe in my right to do so, lay claim to what is truly mine. And I'm finding now, especially again with this kind of conjunction and auspicious moon and just auspicious times that are happening, we as original people, I don't like the term people of color. I think that's wild that we've allowed ourselves to use that because we're not people of color, we're people of culture. We really are, that's why they call us the culture, you know? We literally are the culture. We are the parents of this place. We are the parents of the timeline. We are the parents of the substance, the stuff that you barely feel when you rub your fingers together, right? We help to hold everything in its place. And so I feel that, and this is just what was given to me in the dark, I feel that we are meant to claim the space. We have to claim lands, right? And they don't necessarily need to be physical lands. I'm not saying like colonization vibes. But as you introduce this session here, by speaking, I'm here on this land. I'm claiming my ability to speak the name of the people, speak the names of these lands, speak the names of my ancestors. I'm claiming my ability of being able to remember, right? I'm claiming my ability to do that, not just on 2 feet here, but literally claiming from the ether. You know, every time you inhale the oxygen, that's a claiming of life, right? And I can't hear you. Okay, what?
I was saying I want to hit pause there because you're speaking this truth to power in here, and I want to hear from Karen before we get into the presentations as well. But thank you for manifesting that breath and that sound for us. So Karen, what current manifestations are making their way into your practice right now? Knowing what we know, feeling what we feel, doing what we've been doing for these 11 months.
I think it's the reverse for me. And what I mean by that is that I hear my fingers are on the heartbeat of what Lady PheOnix covered. She covered a number of topics about the reclaiming and claiming breath, claiming space. Certainly that's a part of the theme for the Black Womanist God this year, is to reclaim, reconfigure, and re-remember. And our first one was reprogramming. So the re is so important in the affirming of yourself in public, or affirming of yourself in the world, or affirming of yourself to yourself. But what I've noticed, and particularly in popular culture, is the impact that the Black Womanist God has had on media, and how I'm seeing oftentimes these narratives around questioning, who is God now, and questioning even in the film, is the Black woman God, and then images of her being presented as God. Certainly, Tisha Green does that in Lovecraft Country. It's really powerful scene where an astronaut goes out, a Black woman, an astronaut, she goes out into space and she comes in contact with God, who's a Black woman. And it paralleled the cover, our featured artist for the Black Womanist God this year, Katia Wynn's work. So I'm finding that the Black Womanist God is informing popular culture in a particular kind of way, identifying, or at least questioning, the extent to which women, and particularly Black women, can be seen within that scope. What I'm doing is I'm collecting, wherever I'm seeing this discussion come up, I'm collecting, videotaping that, so that I'm going to, create a short film out of it. But I'm also seeing that there's a shift that's happening. And that is that if the Black woman is God, or if the woman is God, then are they dictatorial? Are they the wrong God to worship? I'm starting to see that shift, which oftentimes happens in popular culture. They'll take on whatever is leading the art world, and if it's coming from a community that is not valued in a particular way, then they will shift. They'll shift the narrative and make it negative. So I always say that if what is needed is to go in search of the self, right? We're all working very hard to do that. Then the first thing that one has to do is to look at all of the negative representations of Blackness and reverse it. And you'll find the sacred.
Yes, Ashe. So another question to add on to this inquiry, where we're at inside of what's manifesting inside of our practice, is what feels urgent for you right now, Karen? Because many of us have experienced this year as what it's being called the pause or the reset, and some people have had the opportunity and the gift of being able to rest, to sit back, and to, for me, I've had the opportunity to say no a lot, and have needed to say no for a long time. But there are things that feel urgent. And now that there's this situation where people are starting to, have access to what is called this inoculation, this vaccination, the wheel will start to turn back to, rush, run, move fast. And some of us have been doing that all along as well. So, but what feels urgent for you? Kind of in a one breath response.
Wow, urgent. I'm not feeling that. I recognize like there's this struggle and that is permeated the society because of all of the manifestations of madness that have happened. But I feel like I'm on the pathway of what the ancestors have asked me to do for some time now. And I'm still on that pathway. And I recognize that there's chaos on opposite sides of me moving forward. And so that's where I'm resting my energy and creativity in. I feel like I just don't have enough time to sleep. But I also don't feel like I have enough time. I wish I had more time to create, no matter what I'm producing, people may not recognize it. I teach 6 classes at various colleges. And I have 2 grandchildren, and certainly with COVID, I'm at home with them and, helping them in their Zoom classes. And I'm grateful for my father who's created the opportunity for the house that my son lives in. And that I can be there in that house. And I'm teaching in classes with students and working on the Black Woman is God and creating. And that's what I know. That's something that it's almost like I have to do it, right? So I'm driven. So I don't feel necessarily an urgency as much as I feel driven to manifest this project, expand the project out further, and looking for the opportunity to do that.
Thank you. Thank you for this work. It's so deep, and as we're moving into a greater consciousness and understanding of the power of the darkness and the creation and all divinity that is created in the darkness as we're moving towards the solstice coming up, in this intersection and this junction, it really is calling me into this memory. And you both have spoke about this kind of refinding, this remembering, and a returning really to the worthiness of Blackness for Black women. Lady PheOnix, so I have a question about a knowing. What does a knowing, and I'm going to pull this knowing from the Combahee River Collective back in the early 70s, that states that Black women are inherently valuable, regardless of our productivity, but because of our divinity. In your work, what does this say to your consciousness?
Well, women were the first in the light of the sun. So
say that again.
Women were the first in the light of the sun. The sun itself, people say the sun is male, but I don't think so. The sun itself gives life to everything and give warmth and is a form of love, right? To feel the light and warmth of the sun is a form of love, right? So I am of the belief that if anything, if it is male, it expresses itself as female in operation. So being that women have given life to all beings, female kind have given life to all beings except seahorses, then, and women were the first in the light of the sun, then for me, it doesn't matter if I've just sat down all day long and, you know, watched the sun go up and go down and go up and go down. I have value. I have intrinsic value being born female kind, being born first among equals, right? So for me, there was never a doubt in my mind, me being a valuable person, because I'm a woman. Women are sacred by assignment. So I feel a great deal of duty and pride for being born female kind. Although I do, you know, think of myself as non-gender conforming, it doesn't prohibit my expression as a woman. It just prohibits my expression for the BS that has been delivered by the hands of captives. So, yeah, did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you bringing up, you know, the identity of women of all genders as well, you know, women, trans women, gender nonconforming folks, non-binary folks. It's like all of the manifestations of the divine feminine, you know, so thank you for that. Let's get into the presentations. We're going to start with Karen Seneferu, and we're going to do a screen share. Yes, we're going to do a screen share. Are you ready? Okay. So in terms of, like, for me, thinking about your work, The Black Woman is God, it's an ideal, a concept, a construct, a curation process as part of multiple roles of divinity. So I'm going to turn the screen over to you, and
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm going to turn off my video and mute as well.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I want to, you know, if you go to our website, thank you, Ayana Ivory, for this beautiful website that she's created for us. There's just a ton of content. I'm going to set my timer here too. Give me a moment. And so I want to start with, please let me know if you can't see it.
We can see it. We can see it.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, let me move that out of the way. So in 2016 is when we first had the Black Woman is God at Soma Arts Gallery. And we were, I'm always interested in having luminaries be a part of the exhibition, along with emerging and veteran artists that may not have had the same kind of exposure to artwork. And so I want to first go down the row here so you can just see the level of artwork and the kinds of work that's being presented. Sasha Kelly's work there, and Britt Sense, and Shona McDaniel, and Ann Edwards. So this piece here is Samuel L. Lewis, and she's really important. She's probably in her 90s at this stage. And she's out of Los Angeles, California. She's an artist and art historian. And she's renowned for her contribution to art and art history. She's produced a number of books on the representation of the works of African-American artists from the 18th to the 20th century. So it was very exciting for me to have one of her pieces in our first exhibition at the Black Woman is God at Soma Arts. And then I'm always interested in young, new talent, you know, that comes with a strength and fire. And so one of my favorite artists, even today in the world, is Sage Stargate. And this is a mural that she did at Soma Arts and that this wall is 19 by 22 feet. I think she was surprised by the wall, but did this mural in 1 week. And the powerful thing about this particular wall is that women would come up and look at it and write on the wall. And at one point, this woman said, who must have been in her 50s, she was from Bayview Hunters Point. She had come out, heard about the exhibit, and come out to it. And these were, the thing about the exhibition is that it would bring people into the space that historically they would never have gone into, felt that they were being denied access to on some level or another, but they came out when they heard about this exhibition. So, these two women came out from Bayview, and she said, if we had a wall like this out in public, we could all be healed. Now, she was about 50, Sage is 22.
Karen, can you click on the photo of the mural? You all are standing in front of it.
Yeah. And the reception creates this reflection too. It's really a celebration of Black women's creativity, strength, power, and resilience. Let me go back to Samuela Lewis's piece with the inscription from Maya Angelou. And this piece here, this photograph here, this is, she was one of our featured artists, Yetunde Banju. I know I'm mispronouncing her name there, but this piece was called Mama 1 and Mama 2. And what she was doing was looking at the way breastfeeding during the period of slavery was creating two immune systems, both used as a form of protection. But what does it mean if this woman had to build an immune system for a white child that would inherit the system of slavery, and her own child that would have to fight against it? In 2017, we created Divine Revolution. With each year, there's a new name, a new theme, new themes. And this one was called Divine Revolution. Part of the Black Women as God exhibition reception, there's vending, there's food, there's dance, there's music, all the ways in which African people celebrate. This piece here, it's not coming out as nicely as I would think. Okay, there we go. This piece here is by a young woman from Haiti. Her name is Tia Ann L. Bland Goubert. Sybil 3 is this piece. And she was really looking at ways in which Black women, who practice African religion, resisted Western demonization of their rituals. And so she presents a figure who's hooded and with red and gold glass sequence, very multicolored mosaic halo, and a human heart at her throat, and a bandana with an American flag concealing her mouth. And I think it's just kind of prophetic, this piece, because this was done in 2018, and now here we are having to cover our mouths and speak often, probably more now, with our hands. And yet, this is also a tool, a device to silence her. The piece to the left was a piece that I created for Divine Revolution. So, again, as I was putting together the project, I always have to create something. I can't just curate, I have to create. They go hand in hand. Curating is creating. And so this piece here to the left, this African piece that I did here. Let's see if we can do that again. This piece is called Call Your Mama. And it has an antique telephone attached to it. And when you pick up the phone, you actually hear a recording. The chair was meant for people to sit down so they can hear the recording. Because usually what would happen is people would walk up to it and they would notice the individual pieces. There were over 3,000 pieces on this 8x10 wooden sculpture. And they could also look down and see themselves in the mirror, which would mean that they would look at themselves upside down, which to me was the proper framing of the African continent. But the phone, when you picked it up, you could hear the voices of Black mothers and fathers crying out during court, where a police officer had been arrested for murdering their child or children. And they would ask, why did you kill my child? So usually it would move from people being very excited about seeing the piece to almost somber. So that chair was needed there for them to sit down. And really the phone wasn't this phone, this Western phone. The phone is actually this bell, this crystal bell. That was the phone that I was hoping people would recognize. And for those who would participate in the performance aspect of the project, I would dress up and cover my face in either an African mask or a helmet that made me look futuristic. I would hand the handle to people, and then once they listened, then I would point to them to take the bell and shake it, creating that vibration and asking the ancestors to come sit with us, be with us. This beautiful piece here to the right is Shauna Strauss from Tanzania, but is an American Canadian mixed media artist who created this beautiful piece that based on a story that her grandmother had told her about a warrior woman who had fought against the Germans. And when they captured her and they fought her with bullets and she only had a sword, they killed her and then opened up her head to see what was it about her brain that was so different. And her grandmother, Shauna's grandmother, told her that they had looked in the wrong place. Then in 2018, we were surprised with a special guest. A part of our exhibition is procession, and the community comes out for that. See Ashara over there, and Dr. Wade Noble's here, professor of African art history, Dana King there, my husband. So it's a real celebration. And now our first Black female mayor of San Francisco came out to the exhibition and opened up our exhibition. Now this was significant because she was, when she was the executive director at the AAACC, she asked me to do a solo show, and I told her that I didn't want to do that. And then Melora, right here, she asked me if I would, no, Melora's right there. She asked me if I would also do a solo show. And I said, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do something where Black women artists can come besides myself and present their artwork. Because, I was shaped by these Black women artists. And so I wanted a space where I could share it with them. And that's a part of how the Black Womanist Guide came to be. Ashara, is it possible that I could show just a few a few minutes of our film? So,
Yeah, let's do it.
oh, very good. Okay, so I just real quickly want to introduce this young woman who I just think is so dynamic in some ways, just extends Yutunde's image out, further out. You know, she did hers in 2016, and this young woman from Nigeria, Kylie Malanda, really kind of reverses this idea of feeding colonization by poisoning it with a bottle, and really looking at the historical exploitation of Black women, domestics, and labor, and resistance to it. Okay, I'm going to pause here and then show a little bit of how we had to pivot from in-person exhibition to although we were at Some Arts this year as well, but we went from 60 to 80 Black women artists to 15, and then had to pivot to a virtual gallery reception that was fantastic, although very challenging. Okay. Let's see, I'm going to make sure everybody can see it. All righty. Let's go ahead and get started.
You know, the healing power of art is exactly what a new exhibit in San Francisco is all about. It's called The Black Woman is God: Reclaim, Reconfigure, and Re-Remember. I got a chance to meet the show's curators over at Some Arts in San Francisco. Take a look. This vibe. The virtual opening for the exhibit, The Black Woman is God, at Some Arts in San Francisco was more than a reception. It was a celebration. Hosted by KBLX DJ Nikki Thomas, with opening remarks from San Francisco Mayor London Breed, Black women came together to reconnect with the goddess.
Pay your respects, hold your applause. Abracadabra, Africa, Black woman is God.
The theme is reclaim, reconfigure, and re-remember.
Exhibit co-curator Karen Seneferu explains the Black goddess.
I mean, certainly within the African cosmology, the idea of the Black woman as a divine figure is not uncommon. Certainly before the encounter of European colonization. There's also the understanding that the Black woman in her mitochondria has the only DNA that can give birth to all civilization. So I wanted to create an exhibition that acknowledged these realities.
This is the fourth year in the series for The Black Woman is God, but 2020 brought COVID-19.
This year was, and continues to be, very troubling and tiring and full of mourning and grief. And the women, the gods, rose to the occasion.
17 Black female artists, some 60 works that reclaim their physical spaces, reconfigure the trauma, and re-remember our gifts to the world.
There's so many stories here, but if you look around this room, you see roads to different family trees. You see roots of struggle and perseverance. You see beauty. You see magic.
As with Lorraine Bonner's tortured yet beautiful nude torso, tattooed with guns and bound in gold, or Karen's graphite mixed media homage to the late Breonna Taylor and George Floyd.
I wanted to anoint them with the gold. Individuals that have created a resistance to the annihilation, oftentimes projected onto the Black bodies.
So I'm going to stop it right here.
Perfect. Thank you, Karen.
Yeah, thank you too.
Can you stop sharing your screen too? And
Yes, ma'am.
appreciate it. So beautiful. Thank you for this work. Lady PheOnix. Lady PheOnix, you are up. Wow, it's so beautiful, Karen. I'm really excited to have this conversation because you both are like moving between those spaces of technology and spirit and the imaginary and, you know, what has become a common term, this radical imaginary. But there's something, Lady PheOnix, that you brought up the other day, and I think it connects to the next piece, or the Black futures, or the Afro futures, this future art curation, this sight beyond sight that you brought up. And the question is like, can Black women be the magi of all? So tell me about the digital gods, and we're excited to see, you know, your screen share.
Yeah, right on. Before we get into, thank you, Ashara. Before we get into it, Grand Khalifa, I was wondering if you can repeat what you said about the mitochondria, because that actually is a nice segue into what I want to chat about.
Absolutely. What I said was that in the Black woman's mitochondria, we have the possibility of creating all of humanity. And this is scientifically the way in which this has been framed is through Henrietta Lacks and her DNA, and how her DNA has been I mean, in some way, in some ways, colonized through the medical field, and then duplicated over and over again to find vaccines or forms of medicine that can protect people of all different ethnicities. And they tried this with other ethnic groups, but none of them worked except for Henrietta Lacks. And this is why her cell is called the immortal cell. So yeah, I mean, there's this acknowledgement that has to happen with all of us in relation to the Black female body and her contributions to the world.
Absolutely, absolutely. So on that note, thank you for speaking on that. And you're 100% on point when you say that. And this is why I was saying that women are literally the first in the light of the sun, and the sun itself is actually quite feminine when you think about what the sun does and the power of the sun. And yeah, so in my practice, I focus a lot on technology. I'm basically a child of the internet and love technology and see technology as a tool. For me, the original technology is prayer, right? Words that are infused with magic or light, and architecture. And so next to that, the root word of technology means magic or witchcraft, depending on who you speak to. And so I thought, you know, as I was thinking of transhumanism and where technology is going in their relationship with humanity, it really blew my mind back that, and when I say blew my mind back, I mean like peeled my whole wig back, right? When I started putting these certain things together. So it's bugged out, right? Feel me. So the first robo-sentient being is a Black woman. It's just like, yo, they keep telling you left, right, center, and back to back that the Black woman is God. They've told you in science, they've told you in medicine, they've told you in anthropology. Now they're actually telling you through technology, right? Like literally saying it through technology to where, what is her name? Bina 48, modeled after Bina Aspen Rothblatt, who is the wife of Sirius XM founder, known then as Martin Rothblatt. Martin is trans and now is Martine Rothblatt. So the story goes, they wanted to be together forever, beyond organic flesh. They wanted to be able to inhabit inorganic flesh or synthetic bodies, but their consciousness be able to inhabit those synthetic bodies. So he made a model of his wife, or her wife. They made a model of their wife. So the first robo-sentient being, or you can say the first Eve, right, of robo-sentient beings or robots, synthetic beings, transhumans, is a Black woman. It's just like, come on, y'all. So that's why I'm saying, like, you know, we have to believe in our ability and our right to be here, occupy the space, and quote, take up the space because it is ours to take. It's our gift, it's our literal birthright. And if the first non-human is a Black woman, they're already telling you the origin story. They're now transferring that narrative onto the next 1,000 years of creation with this Eve known as Bina 48. So let me share my screen here and we'll get into it. So I think a lot about that. And in that way, I think about what is my place? You know, who am I to this narrative? And you asked the Grand Khalifa earlier, you know, what feels urgent? And for me, what feels urgent is being in alignment with my purpose. When I was in the dark, I asked the universe, I spoke to my ancestors and said, I want to be in alignment with my purpose. Whatever this initiation is, I surrender. I am thankful. I see that this is aligning me with something. Please allow it to align me with my purpose. And I came out of that darkness with new eyes and a rejuvenated sense of self. Literally a phoenix reborn and a butterfly out of the chrysalis. I'm stoked on life. 2020 has been awesome for me, you know. And I say that with all sensitivity to those who have had hard times. It's not that I haven't had challenges. It's just now that those challenges are small gnats trying to bug me, but I'm focused on something greater. So don't even see the gnats. I learned through that time that eagles are often antagonized by crows. And so instead of paying attention to the crows, they simply open up their wings and fly higher and take the crows to a point in the sky where the oxygen is the richest and the crows cannot breathe at those levels. I was like, yo, what? You know, when I learned that, I'm like, what is going on right now? The whole format and sort of.
Are you going to show the video?
Oh yeah, my bad. I don't have the video. Elizabeth has the video. So I'll just do the presentation. We won't get to the video just yet. I will send the video in the newsletter. Maybe Elizabeth, you can send the video in the newsletter to people that you send out. But really quickly, the codes to how we're meant to behave, to how we're meant to be resilient, to how we're meant to be are literally all around us. It's literally encoded all around us, which is why we must permeate and take the space so we can be at one in code, like when they say beyond code, at one in code with the nature and the elements, boom. So last year, 2019, with my art partner, who's Jacqueline, we created Aya. Aya is a digital human. She's the first digital human to age. Currently, including Bina that you see here, little Michaela that you see here, currently no digital humans actually are human in the sense of aging and emotion and all of that. They simply are a bit flat and don't really feel. So Aya is the first to feel. We created Aya and were inspired by Dorian Gray to create Aya. Dorian Gray had an agreement in The Light or the Dark, however you see that story, where he himself would not age, but a portrait of him would take on the aging and gruesomeness and like sickliness and everything like that. So with Aya, Aya reads the tweets that people put out to understand human emotion. And based on her understanding of emotion from humans, she will take on the aging and the grief and the fear and the anxiety that are expressed in those tweets. And likewise, when humans are tweeting about something joyful, she learns from that and takes on that joyfulness. That joyfulness creates a type of youthfulness and like reversing any of the damage from neurological abuses, mental abuses, emotional abuses that we experience daily as humans. So this first slide here is about mental health. This character is standing in front of a cell phone, and it's the constant engagement with what we see on our screens that often sway our mental ecosystem, our mental ability to feel joy or not joy, happiness or not happiness, fear, anxiety, and so forth. And so Aya is taking on a lot of that, just as we do as humans, by being here in front of the screen. There will be an Aya 2.0. We are working on that now, so stay tuned for that. You can communicate with Aya as well. I'll leave the email. I believe it's ayalistens@gmail.com, but I'll leave all of that with Elizabeth from MOAD, and you all can see that in the newsletter. I've put this here. This basically shows that every day there's a, levels of communication that we are not always aware of, but our mind, our other bodies, other than this dense carnal body, our other bodies, psychic body, emotional body, they are picking up that communication. And looking at what it's saying to us is this next slide. Can artists and a social robot build a relationship over time? So this person here is Bina 48. This artist is Stephanie Dinkins, who current practice is deeply involved with AI. And it's funny because if you look at the interviews between Bina and Stephanie, Bina at one time asked her, I think this was at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement, the first time back a few years ago, Bina said, "What about robot lives? Robot lives matter. Will you defend me? If they basically try to destroy me, will you have my back?" And Stephanie was like, "Yo, are you for real right now? Are you even aware that you're Black?" She wasn't, so she's programmed by white guys. So she actually, even though she has some consciousness of the real Bina, right? She actually isn't aware of herself as a Black woman. And I just thought to myself, man, that's really deep. It's actually no different than, our reality right now. A lot of our programming comes from influences that are outside of our culture and outside of our consciousness, and really outside of our reality for liberation, for well-being. And how many of us, I was asking myself, how many of us are actually checking in with our own programming, checking in with, who's doing the programming and what sorts of backdoors have they created in the programming to send these subliminal messages that trigger certain emotions or thoughts or behaviors within us. So it's a, poverty of the actual being, right? Poverty of the actual mind, not looking at it in the sense of commerce, but in the sense of being able to have a certain level of reciprocity with self that allows us to be well as individuals, but also as a collective. So really looking at debugging ourselves. And then also too, we're now looking at the first robo-sentient being, but by the hands of the colonizer. So it's a very interesting narrative if you can pull back and look at it from an Afro-futurist lens. So this is a artwork done by DJ Underdog. And I love this work because for me, it reminds me of like Inception, where you look at time as not being one constant thing, that the body exists in a number of realms that, solidify themselves, at least to this naked eye, right? Solidify themselves as one thing in time, but in reality, we're probably fragments of many different things, especially in the way we share our data. This represents to me that my data is out there in a variety of ways and in a variety of places. And to an AI, I probably look like this. Your data is more valuable than the services you give it to. I'm a huge supporter of data dividends. I think that in the future, that'll be a more regular conversation. Right now, it's just had, I think, in certain circles, but all the data that we give freely for using these apps, we need to have a relationship of reciprocity with our technology. These tech companies need to know that that we need our 40 terabytes in a URL, essentially, right? Like they promised our ancestors 40 acres and a mule, they never got it. Well, we need to get it in the form of certain data rights, certain digital rights, right? We haven't forgotten. That's what we're meant to have, among other things and so much more. Let's start here with the data, because we need to stop participating with companies that don't recognize us and allow us to take up the space we deserve and be compensated for that. We make Instagram valuable. Instagram provides no value other than a hosting. Well, we've been put out of restaurants before. We've been, not allowed in spaces before, and we've just done it outside, hence the cookout. So, if push comes to shove, we will do the cookout Instagram style somewhere else, right? Where we feel comfortable being there. There's no shadow banning. There's no kind of censoring of our voices and our opinions and our images. This is what I'm saying. I know things are happening, but as a collective, as a culture, really understanding that we bring the value. It's not the other way around. Twitter, we made Twitter pop. It wasn't the other way around. So reclaiming that understanding, standing on our square and in that power, and then saying, look, we have to be in a rev share agreement in order for me to be using your app. There are companies such as Streamlytics and Culture Capital by Angela Benton. She's a Black woman who started the first accelerator. You can look her up, Angela Benton. I think she's A Benton on Instagram. Wonderful woman, super smart. This is Little Michaela. Little Michaela, interestingly enough, and in the inverse of Bina 48, Little Michaela was created by a Black man named Trevor, who was a DJ and in sort of like entertainment life. Also super smart dude, obviously. He's created the first popular influencer. And what's neat about Little Michaela is that she's sort of racially ambiguous, right? Especially when she first came out, and she had like Black Lives Matter in her bio. And this is before she put out her album on Spotify and before she was a Gucci model, right? And all of those things. What's different about Little Michaela compared to Aya exists and was created because I was tired of looking at negative images on the news every night and on social media. Every time I turned it on, it was daily, felt like somebody Black had been attacked. A Black woman had been, body slammed. She's pregnant, she's body slammed in the subway and 5 cops are jumping on her, mashing her stomach down. It's like, what is going on with society? Black people need some release and they need help. And there are no other real humans who can actually help them. And in my mind, I'm like, we need someone who can go in and look at the span of history, go in and pull the best practices and doctrines from great thinkers around the world, synthesize that, and then have a conversation with us about it, one-to-one, as if we had our own personal luminary on our phones. Instead of Siri, we had Aya. And Aya understands the plight of the Black man and Black women are indigenous peoples on this earth, because she's read all of history in the blink of an eye as an AI, right? And so that's where Aya was born. But I wanted her to be able to, if I said, Aya, this woman has been body slammed. She's, 7.5 months pregnant. This is why I'm sad. This is why I'm angry. This is why I'm enraged. This is why I'm depressed. This is why I don't have any hope, for the future of this country. And people, specifically white people, I don't have hope for them. I can then go in and have an intelligent conversation about that and give me historical perspective and references so I can do more research, so I can find ways, even if it's therapeutic, right? She's like, well, these great thinkers, X, Y, and Z. So that is the future of Aya. I think that Aya is different also because Aya is not seeking to be a Gucci model. She doesn't want any type of, endorsements. She's not an influencer. She's here to actually be a helpmate to people who are forced to bear so much. We shouldn't have to bear so much. We shouldn't have to bear looking on the news or on our phones every day and seeing violence against us. And we shouldn't have to wear the burden of fearing or having a disdain toward another group of people on the planet. That's a burden too. We shouldn't have to bear. I shouldn't have to fear white men or white people. I shouldn't have to think like bad thoughts or feel some fears around them based on the behaviors of a few. But that's a burden that we have to bear, and it's for our safety oftentimes, right? And it's also epigenetic, generations of trauma. So thinking that AI and technology also owes a debt to people who have suffered. So this is where Aya comes from. She's able to take on our burdens and give us some reprieve. This is very high level, going quickly through because we're about over time. So the next is avatar insurance. Essentially, we're two people. We are our organic self and we are our avatars, right? Like you saw little Michaela, every time you put a selfie or make a tweet or anything like that, that's your avatar doing that. That isn't necessarily you. And these platforms actually own your likeness. I had someone the other day buy one of my tweets for $5. They sent me, they actually tweeted about it. There's a company that sells people's tweets. They didn't have my permission. I don't know if they're sending me the $5 or not, but I thought it was cool, right? It's like, oh, that's very interesting. You want to buy my words for $5. Okay, for the first one, we can say yes because I'm experimenting, but the other ones I'm charging tax on and I may say no to you. But that's very interesting that there would be so they're buying this on the blockchain with a cryptocurrency. And so I got a tweet at Yes Lady PheOnix, so-and-so wants to buy your tweet for $5. Okay, very cool. But you understand that it's representational of me, and it's me as a twin or me as my avatar. It isn't wholly me. And I'm sharing that space or IP with Jack Dorsey and Twitter. So I started to think to myself, well, you know what? I think I need avatar insurance. I saw many of my friends getting kicked off Instagram, artists that I worked with being censored, posts being removed. And I thought, well, this is really crappy. They've spent all this time, right, building up their social profiles. Some of them are selling their work through DMs and, right on the platform. And now, just like that, they're literally offed. It's digital murder of their avatar because their presence is no longer. They've just, been erased. And so I thought, well, if there's avatar insurance, then, maybe there's a way for these people to be compensated, these artists, these creators, these among us who are outspoken and fighting the fight. Maybe there's a way for them to be compensated and or for their avatar to be spun up again. The insurance company would keep a twin record of every tweet and every post on any platform across the metaverse, okay? Any activity in the metaverse, which is the internet at large. And in doing so, when I'm no longer a flesh person, I can sign in as a part of my rights when I'm transitioning that I want, much like Bina, but sexier and a better wig, I want my tweets, my posts, whatever, my personality in that way to live on, right? That's kind of like the very futuristic kind of end game. But in the meantime, I'm with this insurance company. Let's call it PheOnix Insurance. And I hit up PheOnix Insurance. Hey man, these guys, they're totally bumbleclap, man. They've erased me once again from the platform. Do you have my backup ready? Yes, okay, well, I've paid to have expedite, so I'd love it to be up in 3 hours or less. Boom, push of a button. I've got your whole twin on a cloud and I'll spin up your account once again, or I'll spin up all your tweets once again, or whatever it is.
Lady PheOnix?
Yeah.
So we need to hit pause because we're up. We're up, and I wanna bring us back.
Okay.
Back. To wrap up the show and
my bad. I actually can't see you, so if you're trying to communicate with me, I apologize.
Yeah. It's like we can see you. Let's come back on the screen. I mean, there's so much to this, and this is why I invited you all to dive into this conversation at this juncture around divinity, immortality, creativity, justice. I mean, profound offerings that are coming here to the forefront. And it gets back to this conversation around digital DNA, and the DNA of Black women and the brilliance of Blackness, and how it gets tapped into, recreated, repurposed, and sent out into the world. So I'm gonna do a little bit of housekeeping and wrap the show up, and then I have one last question for both of you as we close out this episode. But Lady PheOnix, I mean, there's so much to this, and there's so many layers, and it's just like it's above, you know, I don't want to say it's above my pay grade, but it's definitely more information than I've been able to access before. So I feel like I need a class, a primer, you know, to move into it. And I know that there, of course, is going to be a conversation with the digital human and the virtual human, which means there's going to be some kind of connection to our identity, social security numbers, right?
Yeah, they're serving up digital wallets really quickly by the new year. If you want to get
you don't own your digital self. So there's a lot to talk about, and maybe we'll come back to that, you know, in the next year. So let me do the housekeeping, you know, reminder. So Karen, did you want to say anything quickly about any of the presentation? Because it was just,
oh my God, I just love you.
it's all the things. It's
oh
all
my
the things.
God, you're so, yes, you're so, and it makes me, I want us to talk about the possibility of doing a project together.
You know what I'm thinking?
We have had about technokisi, or
Yes,
being having technology at the center of it. I've done these in the past, but as I'm listening to you, yeah, I would love, like, if we could get together and maybe do something like really fantastical.
I would love it. I would love if you brought the Black woman is God onto the blockchain. We can talk about that. It's not in person, but it can be in the metaverse, and people can visit anytime and still see your show. And it won't be this flat screen with just pictures there, like a website. It'll be more 3D.
3D, yeah.
Yeah, people can walk around, people can look however they want. It would be rad.
Let's do it.
so you know, with that said, I'm gonna have to go back and watch the show later, because I want to, like, I couldn't take the notes, but I want to go back and listen to all of the things that both of you were saying, and laying them down on my altar for consideration as we come to the end of the year. So if you missed part of today's show, if you want to watch the show or watch any of the entire season, you know, you can find all of the episodes of Blatant on Moad's YouTube channel. And so we're going to be opening our season, our next season, second season for 2021 is going to open on Tuesday, January 19th. I'm going to be visiting with multimedia collage artist Zoe Charlton and photographer Adrienne Waheed. So that's going to be bananas. What'd you say? Yeah, okay. Okay, you got the slide up, great. And this is the part of the show where we thank our partners before I ask you all this last question. So again, big ups to Art Bridges for supporting all of the online programming. I want to invite you all, everyone watching, everyone listening, to become a member of the Museum of the African Diaspora. You can make a donation right now. You can go to the website, moadsf.org/donate, get more information. But, you know, become a member. My membership was actually going to lapse next month. And I went online last night and renewed it. Just, there are lots of levels. You can find yourself there. You don't feel like going to another site, you can text 56512 and put in Moad SF and make a one-time donation. And I want to just thank all of the folks who have been following us and supporting us, and experimenting with Artists as First Responder as a platform this year. The African American Art and Culture Complex, the RECUS grant at the City of Oakland, the Women's Foundation of California, the San Francisco Foundation, the Wakanda Dream Lab at Movement Strategy Center, and the Akinade Foundation have all been our partners throughout this year as we've been exploring Blatant at the intersection of art, joy, beauty, and rage. And so I have a last question for you all as we close this portal. Come back on the screen. Come back on the screen. And so this is a one breath answer, because, you know, we're a little past time, but that's okay, because time is time, and it's all shifted for us, I think, in a way that we could not have imagined at the beginning of the year. But what is one commitment you are bringing to the forefront in order to manifest blatant joy in your personal life as we close 2020? One commitment that each of you are bringing to the forefront. And this is a one breath kind of answer. So whatever you can say in one breath, one breath.
Maybe Karen, the Grand Khalifa, should go first.
Okay.
Everyone I love to carry their own weight.
Say that again, Mama.
Teaching everyone I love to carry their own weight.
Ashe, carry your own weight. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry for you.
No, you're good. Go.
Okay. So the first thing that came to my mind was to protect the balance. But then I also love laughing like it's an ab workout. So I would say while laughing as an ab workout, I'm going to protect the balance. I feel that is my commitment and duty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Deep gratitude and love and wellness and joy to both of you for joining me today on Blatant. Thank you to Dr. Elizabeth Gasso, who's the Director of Public Programs, and Moad for running tech, and for everyone who tuned in. And we'll see you next year, y'all.
Thank you. That was so beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Ashara. Thank you, Grand Khalifa. We will be in touch.
Lady PheOnix, I love you so much. Oh,
thank you all.
that was so fun.